Instead of a president who boycotts Prime Minister Netanyahu, imagine a president who stands unapologetically with the nation of Israel.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Malzberg panel to weigh in on Ted Cruz and, oh, so much more. Katrina Pierson, spokesperson for the Tea Party Leadership Fund, PAC, and former Republican congressional candidate from the great state of Texas, who knows Ted Cruz quite well, and Roger Hedgecock, host of the syndicated The Roger Hedgecock radio show, and I don't know if he knows Ted Cruz at all, but welcome to both of you. So, Katrina, what'd you think as he gave his speech at Liberty University today announcing he's running for president?
Well, I think it's great to be with you again, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. This is standard Ted Cruz. This is what you see is what you get. He went out there, he hit all the high points, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that to come.
What about it, Roger? I mean, he used the Imagine theme. That was one example with Israel. You know, imagine a nation where this, imagine a nation where that, which led, as I said earlier, Mediaite to, I think, disgustingly put the picture of John Lennon when he was in bed with Yoko Ono from the top up, nude, and laying on a picture of Ted Cruz, you know, imagine. Anyway, so what'd you think of it?
Well, I loved it because, first of all, it was 30 minutes of the man's actual beliefs, unprompted by a teleprompter, his actual words, striding across the stage as no one has done, I think, since Ronald Reagan. He was, and I liked actually the John Lennon thing because John Lennon, all this leftist stuff, you know, Imagine, and all the on the left, they love that. But here was Ted Cruz saying, well, let's imagine liberty. Let's imagine a constitutional government. Yep. Let's imagine standing by Israel. I kind of love that because it really wasn't a rebuff to the left.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good point. What about the, you know, you got Peter King, who I know for years and years and years, congressman from New York, coming out and you know, ripping apart Ted Cruz as he has done for months now. Others within the Republican Party ripping him apart. I mean, isn't it bad enough, Katrina, that the media is going to do that and has done that, even though he's a minority, even though he's of Hispanic origin, even though he's got a great story to tell, he doesn't really count as a minority because he's conservative.
Right, but I will tell you that's going to play into Ted Cruz's whole scenario simply because the American public in general is done with politics. They are tired of the Republicans, they are tired of the Democrats, and here's a guy, an average guy, who came up in grassroots, who came up fighting for liberty, believing in principles with values. Here's a guy that's going to go out there and say, I'm going to fight for you. I don't care what they're saying or they're saying. This is about America and the people who live in it, and I'm fighting for you.
Why, Roger, the need, do you think that people, the kings of the world, feel the need to go be out there already and trashing Ted Cruz?
Because he is, frankly, just a servant of the Republican establishment, and there's not, as one famous politician used to say, a dime's worth of difference between the Democrats and the Republicans at that establishment elite level. What Ted Cruz represents is exactly what Ronald Reagan represented, an insurgency, a recommitment of Republican ideals to the grassroots. And you'll remember in 1980, 35 years ago, here was Ronald Reagan and who? George Bush, right? George H.W. Bush representing the establishment and Ronald Reagan representing the insurgency. We may get a replay this year. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Now, on the other side, silence from Hillary on so many of the key issues. I think it was at the Boston Globe, correct me if I'm wrong, if that's the liberal one. They did an editorial today, Roger, saying we need Elizabeth Warren in this race.
Well, on the left, the curious thing that's happening here is that I think everybody on the left knows that Hillary Clinton is going to be their nominee, absent some catastrophe. But they want to push her to the left. They want to make her the third term of Barack Obama. They're not convinced that she's left enough.
Yeah, Katrina?
Well, I have to agree. I mean, I think that's exactly what's happening. I think they saw Hillary distance herself from Obama during these last cycles. We saw Valerie Jarrett criticize Bill Clinton for not pushing Obama enough. And I think this is exactly what she's going to need to push her far to the left, but she's a smart woman. I don't think she's going to fall into that trap.
Well, we shall see. We have a lot more to talk about on the other side of the break with Katrina and Roger. We have more on the Clinton emails Turns out there's some insight into what she was concerned about with regard to Benghazi. We also have Yemen falling apart and much more. Don't go away. All right, folks, we're back with the Malzberg panel, part 2, Roger Hedgecock and Katrina Pierson. And, folks, New York Times writes this whole thing about a rare glimpse at Hillary's concerns as expressed through emails that have not been made public, but they say they've gotten from various sources, or not gotten the emails, but at least have gotten the theme of the emails. And one or another red flag, they even say, they showed that Mrs. Clinton's top aides at times corresponded with her about State Department matters, guess what, from their personal email accounts, raising questions about her recent assertions that she made it her practice to email aides at their government addresses so the messages would be preserved in compliance with federal record-keeping regulations. Sounds to me, Roger, like she broke more rules, if not laws.
Well, it also sounds like the statement she made in her press conference trying to cover this are simply lies. But the most interesting thing is the email that has been released so far shows her to be much more concerned after that October 2012 hearing in which she said, well, what does it matter? That she's much more concerned with whether she survived the day. In other words, how's her image doing?
Right.
When you have somebody like that who wants to be president, who's enthralled with her image rather than the impact of what she's doing, it's a very big commentary on her fitness to be president.
Right, and Katrina, as you are well aware, as Roger correctly stated, after that, what difference does it make? She wrote one of her top advisors, did we survive the day? And the advisor emailed back, survive? Yes.
Well, and I think, the bigger problem I think she's facing is the fact that the story keeps changing. It's evolving as the days go on. She did and didn't use her personal email, didn't email her aides' private email addresses, and so now we know all of that did happen. I would like to now see Uma Aberdeen's emails and what she sent Hillary Clinton during those times. That's particularly of interest to me, considering all the controversy that surrounds her personal aide. I think all of the emails now should be made public.
Yeah, well, I would like to see Uma Aberdeen's emails dating going back even before, Hillary was head of the State Department, and how she got that job outside the State Department while she was still in the State Department. But this thing just stinks to high heaven. Let's talk about, go ahead, Roger.
Well, and by the way, just parenthetically, Trey Gowdy's subpoena for emails is due to be complied with this coming Friday, so I'm going to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, well, watch what I'm doing now. I'm holding my breath. All right, let's move on. There was a press conference today. The police chief of Charlottesville addressing the University of Virginia, those rape allegations in the Rolling Stone magazine article. And although he stressed, and I think he did this possibly for politically correct reasons more than anything else, that this investigation is not closed, it's suspended, and if anybody has any more information, come forward. We're here. Tell us. But basically, they couldn't corroborate anything that this woman, who alleged all those horrific things specifically and in details in the magazine, they couldn't find that any of it happened. Katrina, how much damage does this do?
Well, I mean, I think it's truly sad for all the women who are assaulted in situations like this. But here we have a liberal trying to galvanize the liberal base, taking advantage of a horrible situation, and they didn't find any evidence. In most cases, she should be punished. She lied, and she is trying to hurt the university and hurt an individual, and she's not going to suffer any of the consequences. The only reason they suspended this case rather than close it is because they didn't want the backlash, because a lot of these people still think, even though it hasn't been proven, that this girl was assaulted on that campus.
Roger, in the name of the boyfriend that she gave in one case, they can't even find that this person exists on the face of the earth.
No, and they couldn't find any other evidence either. This journalist for Rolling Stone apparently went to the Dan Rather School of Journalism, where if it isn't true, then it should be.
Sure.
And the girl, apparently might have studied journalism under the Brian Williams banner. I'm sorry to say. I mean,
just make up the news. You're right.
She just made up the news. The police officer did say that something terrible might have happened to her, but again, there's no evidence of what happened to her, if anything. Anyway, all right, guys, great to talk to you both. Thank you. Katrina Pierson, Roger Hedgecock. We'll speak to you both soon. Coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, it's Gimme 5. Don't go away.